back in maybe 2006 to 2008. I was a tax associate at the most well-known tax service in North America. I did very well in the class you take, which determines your eligibility to be hired as well as teaching you how to do taxes, and was hired. I bounced from office to office as newbies do, and I was doing well enough that I was always the first to be called if a shift needed covered. After my first season with them went so well, I was invited back for the next year and the class was free because of the invitation back. In case you wonder why the class is every year, it's because tax rules change every year and we have to keep up. Shortly after the class was over, which I aced, I was approached by the lady who ran the district. She wanted to open a seasonal office in a Walmart 50 kilometers outside the city I worked in. She wanted me as a primary associate there, in part because I'd done so well in the previous year, in part because I'd aced the class, in part because of my background in security, and in part because I lived 20 kilometers closer to this Walmart than anyone else on staff. I wasn't to be a manager, but I was going to be the only full-time Superscript 1 associate. I'd open and close almost every day, and often be the only associate on site. It was basically my baby to take care of. There were hints it might lead to advancement in the company as well. I was pretty excited at the opportunity. At first everything was great. The Walmart staff liked me, the customers liked me, my boss liked me. I was blasting through customers. Only maybe 5 people walked away due to having to wait, out of the few hundred who approached my little office beside the produce section. 2 months in, right before the tax season really heated up, I had a weekend I'd booked off the same day they'd hired me. I was going out of the province to see family. Trip had been set long before they hired me, and I'd made it quite clear I wasn't going to be around. The schedule accurately reflected that. So weekend arrives and I go. Had a good time, came home Monday evening so I could be back Tuesday morning. When I got home I checked my answering machine for messages, even if smartphones were starting to be a thing I didn't have one, and I'm pleased to say I still don't. There was 3 messages. 2 from my boss the district lady, and 1 from the scheduler. I don't remember everything word for word so I'll paraphrase. Message 1, Saturday morning approximately 7 a.m, Hi Vanaja, sorry to do this to you, but we need you in today. Employee X, who we scheduled to replace you's car broke down. Message 2, Saturday afternoon approximately 2 p.m, I'm very disappointed in you for not responding to me and not showing up. I'll be making some changes. Message 3, Monday morning approximately 9 a.m, Hi Vanaja, this is scheduler. Your hours have changed this week, call me when you get this. Now at this point in my life I'm not a kid out of high school and I've had enough experience with screw jobs that I'm absolutely not going to crawl on my hands and knees apologizing and begging for my job. If you're going to be petty and mean just because you fucked up, then we're going to have problems. And so we did. I called the scheduler and was told I was suspended for a week and to call my boss after a week to get back on the schedule. She said the boss was trying to put me in my place and teach me how to be a good manager. I'd get back on the schedule after the week was over. I brought up my pre-planned and scheduled time off, and also that I wasn't a manager, I was a regular employee. The scheduler was very uncomfortable, but she was only doing what she was told. They did need me, she said, just call boss in a week. I said sure, and then didn't. I was furious, and I wasn't the one who was going to be put in her place. I called a few of the customers who I'd been working with and explained I was no longer working there and they chose to keep me as their tax gal regardless. It really wasn't intended as revenge even though it sounds that way. The company wasn't going to make more than it cost to have someone do their taxes anyway. This was purely a customer relationship thing. I like to finish what I start. The real revenge was accepting my suspension. The entire week I was suspended, I made sure to stop in at the Walmart to see if I knew who they scheduled for my shift and if we were friendly, then help them out with the quirks of this location. But there was never anyone there. I confirmed with the Walmart staff, all week they had noon working there. Paying Walmart to rent space and getting nothing but a bad reputation for it because the heavily advertised new location had 0 employees. It remained that way for the rest of the season. 2 months. The boss never called me, and I never called her. Pride. I have no idea how it impacted her professionally. I stayed far away from taxes ever since. I got another job before my suspension was over and never looked back. ETA. Full-time associate for the location does not mean actual full-time hours position. My apologies, I should have made that more clear originally. This office was open 4 hours on weekends and 6 hours on weekdays, so I wasn't a full-time employee. Next story.
I worked in an IT support capacity as a contractor. A year here, a few weeks there, always for an agency, never for the company. Some years I would have 4 to 5 employers. It worked out great for me. In December 2016, I was hired by an online pharmacy on a 1-year contract. You get a RX from your doctor, log into their portal, send in an image of your RX, and it gets mailed to you in a few days, cheaper than your local pharmacy. The agency that sent me there told me that the employer preferred I work as a contractor for the company and not the agency. Again, fine by me, as long as I get a paycheck. Right 2 weeks after I started, my hiring manager, the CSO Chief Security Officer, told me that there was an oversight, and a comprehensive background check needed to be done. This was a police record check, a high-level RCMP check, plus exhaustive employment verification. In the past, I had listed the companies I worked for, not the agencies. Past employers were okay with that as they understood the world of contractors. Not this dude. So the employment background check comes back and none of the companies could verify I worked for them, as I didn't exist in their books, having worked for the agencies that sent me there. Also, the employment verification company was based out of the US and not Canada where I live and work. Anyway, the CSO chews me out for lying and threatens to fire me on the spot. I pull up all my T4 income tax slips I had on Google Drive, pay stubs, timesheets, images of my ID cards, employment offer letters, and more, to prove I did work at those companies, but for agencies. This was clearly totally unfamiliar to him. To save face, he threatened me that I needed to go by the book in every detail or I'd be out on my ass before I could blink. Since this was a pharmacy, and if you're in Canada, you would totally understand PIPTA. Most pharmacies use a RX filling tool called Kroll. I had total access to the training portal of Kroll. This meant they ran an algorithm that scrambled real customers' details. Real first and last names, street numbers and names, towns and cities, birth dates, phone numbers, doctor names, and RX databases, would get scrambled and reissued. So if I opened a random customer, every detail above would be pulled from millions of customers in a never-to-repeat random order. 100% foolproof to isolate any specific patient customer. Except for the actual scanned prescriptions. As an example, making this up for clarity, if I clicked on the View RX field for Mrs. Mary Wilson of 274 Dunhill Avenue, Grumbell, Alberta, K9F3R8519, 754-8465, the title, first name, last name, street number, street name, street type, town, province, postal code, phone number, all would be pulled randomly from the database. But there was an actual scanned RX for a real person, say in Ontario, with their name and address and phone and doctor and the RX details. Holy shit. I'm not supposed to see this. The pharmacists and pharmacy techs who filled the RX could see patient details, like any pharmacy. But not me or others. I am not cleared for it. By the book. I immediately went to see the CTO and showed him what I had seen. He went pale. Who else have you shown this to? Well, no one, but anyone who has access to the training portal could see it if they burrowed down deep enough. He thanked me and said he would look after it. By the time I got back to my desk, the training portal had been shut down. The CSO was fired the next day. By the book.